Welcome back to another episode of the Adversity Diaries. I am your host, Carlos Jimenez. I've got a special guest with me today. Someone who's not just spinning down the mountains, but also pushing the limits in every sense. I'm talking about the amazing Stephen Lawler, a two-time Paralympian who went from tearing up the slopes in Vermont as a kid to representing Team USA in Sochi, Pyeongchang Paralympics. Stephen's story is all about resilience, grit, and taking on challenges with a fearless attitude. We are diving into his incredible journey from overcoming injuries to breaking barriers in adaptive sports. Stephen, we are so pumped to hear from you, man. I'm really excited to, chat with you and reconnect again. And, let's get into it. How's everything going?
Good. It's good to talk to you again. You helped me rehab from one of my biggest injuries in my career. So it's good to talk to you again.
Do you really tell me something really quick? Tell us where you are right now, because if people watching this, you don't want to say like, "What's this guy at?" So it's like a quick thing.
My wife is doing a race up Pikes Peak. It's called the Ascent, and she's about an hour and a half into it. It's I think it's 12 miles up. I think it might be like 10. But they race from Manitou to the top of Pikes Peak, and she's doing that. So I'm waiting in a park for her to finish that, and thought it would be a cool background for this interview. So I hope it's not too windy.
No, it's all good. We can hear you pretty well. But just to give people the context to what Pikes Peak means, it's what's the height of the mountain that she is ascending right now?
I think it's just over 14,000. So it's one of the tallest ones in Colorado.
That's incredible. I'm really, I just told you, I really think I need to talk to her in the future so she can share her story with us. That would be awesome. Dude, but let's dive into your life, man. I mean, doing the research about you and, it's incredible. I'm going to go right into it. You've been vocal about this. It's up in the websites and everywhere. So you were born with spina bifida, right?
Yep.
And yet you took skiing at a younger age. Can you tell us about your first experience skiing and what drew you to the sport?
Yeah. So I was born with spina bifida. It's where the bone doesn't grow right around your spine when you're in your mom, and it gets damaged, and I'm paralyzed from the knees down. I've used a wheelchair my whole life, and my mom's a nurse, so she kind of didn't really hold me back ever on anything. So when my family went on a ski trip when I was like 5 or 6, they took me along, and Vermont Adaptive at Sugarbush in Burlington, Vermont. They took me out. They put you in a bi-ski. There's 2 skis on the bottom. You have poles on your arms that are like crutches with little ski tips on the bottom. They're called outriggers. And I was pretty crazy as a 5-year-old, I think. I thought it was a sled, and I went straight. And after that, they had to tether me. So they put 2 strings on the back, and they kind of control your speed as you go. But it was fun. And I think I first went when I was like 5, and then I started going up when I was like 7 or 8 with like my elementary school, or I don't know if that's the right age for elementary school, but around then. In elementary school, I started going up on the weekends. And then I was approached when I was like 12 if I wanted to try ski racing, and I never stopped. So I've been at it a lot.
Who was supporting you during that time? I mean, who was the main support system at that point?
My mom and my coach, Danielle Hampton at Sugarbush. She's the one who approached me. And I would go up for lessons, and I would take the bi-ski that I was on. You race on a monoski, so one ski. But I started on a bi-ski, and I would take it in a half pipe and break one of the skis off pretty regularly. So they were like, why don't we just put you on one ski? So they pushed it pretty hard. I was the first ever disabled skier to race in Vermont for high school. And the way disabled sports works is there's factors based on your disability. So I'm paralyzed from the knees down, which for a monoski isn't too bad because I have my hips, which is a big part of it. So there's a factor system. So if I were to race someone that's paralyzed from about like chest down and tie them raw time, they would beat me because of the factor. And what my coach Danielle fought for really hard in high school was for me to get my factor. to make it even. So I was the first ever kid to do that, and I took my team to states that year because I got my factor. Raw time, an able-bodied skier beats us pretty handily, but we can keep up. So giving that 5-second time factor made me pretty competitive, and I was the first one to ever do it. It's a great time.
So I heard you were like even the captain of the senior.
Yeah, my senior year, I was the captain. And then, as you know, I like to blow my shoulders. So I had shoulder surgery. That was my first shoulder surgery that year. But I was the captain of the team. And it was co-captain. We had a girl and guy captain. And it was a great time.
So how do you think that shaped your athletic journey? You know, like being, early introduced to the sport and, pushing the limits at a young age. How did that shape you to be, to what you did afterwards?
I think the high school skiing was good because it was a higher level of racing than the small adaptive racing I did on the East Coast. If people who know skiing would hear of NASTAR, if you go to ski resorts, there's little courses set up and you can pay and do it and run your time. That's kind of what the adaptive races were like on the East Coast. They were smaller. I think it was called the Diana Golden Series. And the high school races was a bit more competitive. The courses were harder, faster. So I think it actually really helped because right after high school, I moved to Winter Park, Colorado to train full time and try to make the U.S. team. And it all took off from there.
What age was that? When
I moved for ski racing or for the high school team?
for ski racing, yeah.
I think I was 12. I was 11 or 12 when that. And that was the Diana Golden Series where you do these little races. I won the series that year, so I did the best over the races. And you get a scholarship to come to Breckenridge, Colorado, and go to Ski Spec, which is the U.S. team is there a lot of the time. A lot of the manufacturers of the equipment we use are there. So you get to try out equipment, do a race at the end of the year, ski with a mentor from the U.S. team. So it was really cool. And that's kind of what skyrocketed me into wanting to make the team.
That's cool, man. So diving into your injuries, I know you've had multiple shoulder injuries throughout your career. I mean, I even worked with you one time and for a long time. You even missed in 2010, you had like another. What's the first one? What was the first one you said?
So I had one in high school, and then I had one in 2010, and then I had one in what was the year of Sochi? 2014. I had one. I was sorry, headphones just odd. I had one in 2014, and it was about 4 months before the Sochi games that I had it. And I rehabbed really hard. I made the team. It was right around the time when I was supposed to be cleared to get back on snow. I made the team still based on what I did the year before. I had a really good year the year before. I got second at World Champs in downhill. And then, so they took me hoping I could make it, but I got out there and the shoulder was just too fresh still. It felt, I think this might have been like 3.5 months post-op. And I got there, I free skied, I ran some gates, and I ended up not getting cleared to race. So the shoulder just wasn't ready. So I went to Sochi, I didn't race. And then going into Korea, that was the injuries that led to the rehab you helped me with. But I had 14 dislocations of my shoulder in an 11-month period. And when I mean dislocations, I mean like doctors had to put it back in, not little ones. Like I would have subluxations daily. Like I would sneeze driving and my shoulder would like sublux. Like it was pretty bad. And then that's the surgery that I had that I rehabbed with you. And then I came back from that, was feeling really good, and had a big crash in Russia and broke the screws they put in there to fix that. And that's what ended it. That was the year before Beijing. So I never really got to do a Paralympics healthy, which was quite a bummer.
Yeah, that's. But before we dive into that, because I really tap into that was your story. How do you always find the strength to come back stronger after such setbacks? As you said, you have so many, dislocations and all these things. Like, what was your that drive? Like, what is it? What was it? Or what? Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the culture of skiing. If you look it up, I think every World Cup alpine skier has had 7 major orthopedic surgeries, like as an average. So I didn't even hit the average. Like, I don't know a ski racer that hasn't had a knee surgery, broken something. Like, it's a pretty unpredictable sport. Like, there's so many factors. It's not whether you trained hard enough to be ready. I mean, it could be snowing, it could be windy, it could be cold, it's usually icy because they make it icy on purpose, but like, there's just so many factors to a ski course. Like, a coach goes out and sets it the day before. It's not like you don't have any idea what it's going to look like until you show up and look at it. So it's pretty unpredictable. I think it's part of the sport. You come back from injuries. Everyone's had to do it. I think being in a wheelchair my whole life, I've been very good about that's life. Life happens. We're just gotta keep going. I loved skiing. It was so much fun. I got to travel the world. Why would I not want to keep doing it? So that was the motivation.
Yeah, because I mean, clearly wasn't for the Benjamins or the dollars in the.
It was pretty fun though. I mean, when you wake up in Switzerland for a month, it's a pretty fun life.
Nice. Oh, so speaking of that, how do you manage the knowing that the physical demands clearly, there's a toll on your body, right? But something that I'm usually passionate about talking with people in different industries, right? Being sports, athletes, or any other industry at the highest level, executive, is the mental toughness. How did that play in your career? And tell me, how do you develop that?
Throughout my career, I worked really hard in the gym. I was at the Olympic Training Center every summer of my career. I asked to be there every year because it was the one thing you could control. I felt like if you were in very good shape, that's the only thing you could control in skiing. So I worked really hard at it. I did get hurt a lot, and I knew that if I showed I worked really hard, the coaches would respect that. And there were times I was on the team hurt for a whole season, but they put me on it so I could rehab at the training center, and they knew I was going to work hard. So I don't know, that pushed me. And then with skiing, I feel like if you fell the day before, you just got to move on to the next day. It's hard. Skiing's hard. So you just got to kind of forget what happened the day before if you had a rough day and move on to the next day. You go to Europe for 6 weeks at a time, 4 different race circuits. Like, you just got to move on. Tomorrow's a new day.
Wow. So but honestly, like, speaking here, I mean, did you ever had doubts? Like, you're like, okay, you had a rough season. You're like, man, I don't know if I can do it. Like, was there ever like a doubt of your performance? And if there was a time, how do you try to like cope with that? Like, was there any strategies, people, family, who was supporting you? Or
The coaches were always really great. My best overall season, I fell the first 6 races of the year, and it felt like I was never going to finish a course again. I made it like 2 gates from the bottom too, and missed a gate. Like, I just kept not finishing. But then by the end of it, I had the best season of my life. I was like 5th in the world in downhill ranked. I think I finished 3rd or 4th in the overall. So they do the over. There's slalom, GS, Super G, and downhill. Super G and downhill is speed. That's what I was better at. So they do overalls at the end of the season for all of those events combined, and then they do overall within the events. So I think I finished like 6th for Super G that year and 4th for downhill. So as a whole, that was my best year, but I started at 0 for 6. Like, first 6, I went to a whole race series and I didn't finish one race, and I was just like, oh my God, this year is going to be brutal. And the coaches were like, you're skiing great. Just stop making those dumb little mistakes. We call it finish line fever if you blow up near the bottom. You saw the finish line and you lost your focus. So I think that's what got me a few times.
And you think that it just comes with experience, Stephen? Like it's just part of like every athlete will go through that, or or you to go through it to learn from it.
In skiing, it's going to happen. I think everyone goes through a bad stretch in sport at some point. And skiing, the stakes are a lot higher when you make those mistakes. You fall at 60 something miles an hour. It hurts a little more sometimes, but I don't know. It's just, you just got to move on to that next day. And I've always had a short-term memory with ski racing.
That's good though, because I feel like you said, like you have a season that is going, you're going to the next place, and then you're like, okay, gotta think of the next weekend to compete, and then forget about what happened yesterday, basically, which is a good way to see life as well. Yeah, I think. So, we just touched on the Olympics, Paralympics, obviously, and you said that it was a difficult time for you because you were part of it, but you were not 100% healthy, right?
Yeah. I was on the team for 12 years, very good. And I went to 2 Paralympics, skied at 1, and almost got dead last. When I'm a world champs medalist, I'm generally in the top. I was a top 7 skier, I'd say. That was my sweet spot. There were guys who consistently are on the podium, and I would say I was just off that. No one would be shocked if I got on the podium, but I wasn't. I had a consistency problem. I was decent, but would get hurt, and we can have a shoulder surgery. I feel like you start back at 0. Like, it takes 6 months till you're ready to be back on snow. I would say a year until you feel good, and like 2 years to be like normal again. And when you do your shoulder every 3 or 4 years, it didn't really. That was a short cycle that I had to do a lot. So that made it difficult, I felt.
Yeah. And how did you try to like push through that? Though? Like, I mean, sometimes I feel like I work with a lot of athletes, throughout my career, and I feel like you see them, failing. Some people they just quit, like, okay, whatever, 1 knee injury, 2 knee injuries, I'm done. Like it's not, people can take for different reasons, right? I mean, obviously personal, all these things. But for you still keep pushing through that, even through adversity. How was that? Yeah, I'm just curious to see how do you do it.
I felt like skiing was just so fun. Everyone's always like, what do you want to do with your life now that I'm retired? I work for a medical supplier right now, which is great, but I mean, it's not skiing. The skiing was so fun. Everyone's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I already kind of did it. So I didn't want to give up on that. And I think the Olympic Training Center really helps because it made it feel like you were still part of it. You're surrounded by athletes. You weren't with your team, but you were surrounded by athletes. We're only a winter sport, so you're off on your own in the summer anyway. You had a few training camps in South America or New Zealand, but you're pretty much on your own in the summer anyway. So being at the training center made it feel like you were still in the Olympic Paralympic movement, which helps stay motivated.
Yeah. What was the most memorable moment from competing at the Paralympics or at the World Cups? And do you learn any lessons? And do you take away from those experiences anything specific that you can remember or any stories you want to share?
Probably by far the best result of my career was a second at World Champs in Spain. In what year was that? That was 2012, I think, 2013. And I had just hurt my shoulder, of course, about a month before. I flew to the training center. I got a cortisone shot, and then I flew to Spain to ski at my first ever World Champs. And the first event we do is downhill. And not a lot of people know this about skis, but the more wax you put in them, the faster they are. And Volkel had sent me a pair of ex-World Cup girl skis that were just like the fastest skis I've ever been in. Like, they were so fast. And the first time I skied on them was in Spain. After the first training run, I had gotten like third or fourth, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. All right. And then race day, I was like the third guy to go, and I beat my time the day before by like 5 seconds, which is a lot. And the ski techs make your skis faster on race day. They put special wax on it too. I actually don't think they use them anymore. I think those got banned, the special waxes. But back then, I guess it's bad for the environment or something. They figured, I don't know. I don't think they use them anymore. But back then we did. And I remember finishing and being like, my skis were so fast today. And I looked at my time and I was like, ooh, that's going to be hard to beat. I remember thinking that. And I held first place the whole time. And then the last guy to go, a guy named Franz from Germany, was the guy who passed me. Everyone had congratulated me on being world champ. I was like, the race isn't over. Don't say that. And I got second that day. But it was pretty fun. It was pretty awesome. And the Paralympics, going to the Paralympics is wild. Like, the fans, we don't have tons of fans at our races. It's just not big enough. But seeing 15,000 people at the bottom of your ski course screaming and you come down, it's pretty wild.
Do you get to like hang out with the athletes in the village, like the whole thing, or you were staying somewhere else? No, probably.
The Alpine Village is always, we're never part of the actual village, but there's a lot of athletes up there because sometimes Nordic's up there, sometimes. So there were a lot of athletes up there, but we weren't in the main village. Like Sochi, we were like an hour and a half away up. The next one's in Milan, and they're like 3 hours away, I think. But the next games is the coolest ski resort in the world. Everyone should watch, for sure, in Fortina. It looks like they took a rock wall and cut a ski hill in it. It's the craziest thing ever. Yeah, I'm sad I'm missing it. I might need to make it.
Wow, are you serious? Is that dangerous?
No, it's just cool looking. It's just it's in the Dolomites in Italy. It's the most amazing mountain range in the world.
Is that would you go back if you could, like just to visit? Would you?
I think I'm over it. Racing became very stressful. I started to ski not to fall on my shoulders, and when you're trying to ski not to fall, you end up falling. You can't think like that. And I was starting to feel good when I got hurt again, but I think if I came back now, I would just be too worried about my shoulders. It wouldn't work, so that's when the surgeon told me to either not fix my shoulder and keep skiing or fix it and stop skiing, because now to do my ladder-jet, they have to take like a piece of my hip or a cadaver hip and put it in there. So he wouldn't want me to break it again. And I completely didn't listen at all. I stopped skiing and I didn't get it fixed. So I still have broken screws in my left shoulder.
I mean, you did 50% of what he said, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like any elite athlete to me, you know? Yeah. You guys will do whatever you're going to do. We recommend something you do at the end what you want to do.
Surgeons are tough, though. They would never give you a definite answer. They would be like, these are your options. I'm like, come on, you're the surgeon. Tell me should I do this or not? And I was always like, they never said you absolutely need surgery. They would be like, these are your options. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah.
That's crazy. Hey, so I'm sure we know that you've dealt with adversity and both on and off the slopes, right? Back then too. What has been the most important lesson you learned about resilience, and how has it shaped your approach to life?
I just think working hard at what you do. Like I said, gym was a big part for me. I always felt like if you proved this meant a lot to you by going to the gym, like doing 3 days in the summer because we're not on regular training. You have nothing else to do. You might as well go. And I think that helped me rehab these shoulder surgeries quicker. The training center is a very aggressive rehab place. When I did my shoulders on my own, with the ladder jet, they don't want to touch it for I think it's 3 or 4 weeks. Like, you just let it heal. And then you start working on it. With the training center, they're stretching it a week in. And it came back so much quicker working with you guys there because of how aggressive it was. And I just feel like if you put in the work, you'll get the results. Not to say you won't get hurt again. Ski racing's one of those odd ones because it really, there's a hole in the course that you hit that you don't know about, and you didn't make it. Like there's just so many variables with swimming. You can't let it get to you. You just go out. And our coach had one of the coolest mottos at the top of a downhill. He's like, they close this whole trail for you, and they're letting you go as fast as you can to the bottom. Have fun. And it was always just, it was fun. It was fun. You'd normally get through
crazy kids. Yeah, exactly. You have these crazy kids going 100 miles per hour going down the hill. You guys, oh my god, it's incredible, dude. But what would be what advice will you give to others, especially those facing physical challenges, who are trying to reach their goals, either in sports or just your weekend warrior, right?
Yeah. I would just say find the sport you love. And I love skiing. It was easy to come back to skiing because it's what I had always done. Skiing allowed me to like keep up with able-bodied people. I was faster than most of my able-bodied friends growing up. Like, it turns you into the fastest one if you work hard at it. And it was fun. And I think if I wasn't in a wheelchair, I wouldn't have had the experiences I had, honestly. I got to travel the world. I've been to so many cool places to ski, and I actually attribute that to being in a wheelchair. So it's, you can find cool stuff to do if you end up getting disabled or having, even if an injury takes you away from the sport you love, there's so much to do out there. We go camping all the time now, and we still live here in Colorado. I wouldn't have been back in Colorado, I think. And we love it here. I just find what you love. Go after it, I would say.
That's good, man. I appreciate that. Now, looking forward, you briefly mentioned it now that you've had, you're done with your career in skiing. And, what are the things that now excites you? What is the new challenges that you're taking with you and your partner? Which seems like she's also an adventurer, just like
yeah.
What are the new things that you're up to now? What gets you out of bed?
Camping on the weekends. We just went to Rocky Mountain National Park. It was awesome. The male elks are in that time of year, and we heard them all night long. It was insane, actually. They were like feet from our tent, just bugling all night. It was pretty wild. Didn't sleep at all, but it was pretty cool. And we're looking to find a bigger house here in Colorado Springs and hopefully call it home for a while. And I just love this town. I love the Olympic movement. I still get up, or Paralympic movement as well. I still get up to the ski races in Colorado that I can. It's fun to be part of. I do ski camps for newer skiers sometimes, a couple times a year. And it's just fun to still be. I feel like when you're in Colorado Springs, you're still part of the movement. This town is all about the Olympics, and it's pretty fun to be around. Okay. You can't do much better than Colorado. It's pretty beautiful here. So just guess out and seeing it.
I really enjoyed that a lot when I was living there for a few years, and it's such a unique place compared to the rest of the U.S., especially the East Coast, right? So, there's only so much. When I hear people, I'm gonna go for a hike. I live in Miami. I'm like, oh, really? So, nice. Exactly. But all seriousness, it seems like you have a balance, like for your well-being and sense of balance right now. And so with your work, like, is there anything? I always curious to hear this from ex-athletes who now in your professional civil career, right? Like, is there anything you kind of use, strategies you kind of like apply for your professional civil career that you were doing before, like the mental aspect, or what is it? Like, is there any similarities that you try to apply the same way to be successful?
Yeah, I would say I do that more than others because I work for a teammate now. He started a medical supply company because most everyone in a wheelchair uses medical supplies, and he was sick of dealing with people who didn't use it themselves. So he started his own company, UMed, and he gets people in wheelchairs signed up, and we go out to ski camps. We go to all these disabled camps and participate because it's fun, and then also get new clients. So that's a lot of what I do right now. And it's pretty fun. It's grown like crazy. This company, he's a genius. I don't know why no one else thought of this, but he just, yeah. And we go to Craig Hospital a lot, which is a spinal cord injury. So it's people with brand new spinal cord injuries. We talk to them about sports, tell them about our ski careers. He was a skier too. And talk to them about what works for us, medical supplies wise. So I feel like I get to do skiing still with this new company because I go to events all the time and speak to people. And I don't know, I feel like it's cool. It kind of feels like I'm still a part of the disabled sports world doing this. Like,
yeah. Do you feel that now being in this position, you can inspire others that way? Is there like, have you had any stories about that?
yeah, I definitely think so. I was at an event 2 days ago where these two girls were brand new in chairs and they had skied before and they were just getting recovered from their injuries. And I was like, you got to go skiing. You have to. It's so fun. And I told them about NSCD in Winter Park, and I think they're going to pursue it. And it'll be cool I hope I talk to someone someday and end up ski racing and making it. That'd be fun. Because it was
That's up. Do you travel to the US doing these things and kind of like finding, spinal cord injury center and all these things? So you guys go there and promote the company?
Yeah, it's mostly Colorado. But we have people from all over. Craig is one of the biggest and best spinal cord injury places. So I think people come from out of state to go to Craig. So we end up meeting him there and meeting them at events all over Denver. And it's not really like Craig will put on an event with a few sponsors and we go to that event and we meet all these people and it's pretty fun. And people tend to have a pretty good outlook on life about it. Some are bummed out, but I mean, most of them are. I've done a lot of fun stuff. I've gone mountain biking or I've gone water skiing behind a boat, and there's so much fun things you can still do. So we try to just convince people and encourage them to get out and try those things.
And how do you? Yeah, I was looking. Obviously, I was looking at your Instagram. You're always like doing things, and do you have the equipment to adapt other canoes or kayaks and stuff like that, or like do you just buy it and they come like that off the shelf? Like, how does that work for you?
When it comes to like water sports, it's pretty cheap actually to get into. Things like downhill mountain bikes, disabled mountain bikes are like $15,000. They're pretty expensive. So a lot of programs you can go out with them at one of these camps and try it, and they have a bunch. Or you can get grants from like the High Five Foundation. You can apply for grants. CAF does it as well, where they'll give you money to buy this equipment so you can own it yourself and go out and do it. And it's pretty awesome. I think that's how I got my first monoski. CAF Foundation helped with that. And there's tons of great programs to look into if you need help with that. And they love to get people back out and doing stuff.
That's cool, man. No, I really appreciate that. I'm definitely going to see if we can tag them in this and shout out to them. And also shout out to the company you work for. What is it? UMed?
UMed Inc. Yep. Here in
UMed Inc? Okay.
Denver, Colorado.
All right. We'll definitely go shout out them when we finish up this. But man, it's been really fun. But before we go, I have a few segments that we are working in this new season. So I probably produce this part right here. So the first will be a rapid fire round. Okay. So these are just quick things that see where you're at. I mean, they might actually bring you back to where you were an athlete. So just kind of play with it right now. I mean, just go for it. So this segment, we call it the rapid fire. Okay. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Cool. So what was your favorite post-training meal?
Post-training meal. Strudel in Austria. There's this little strudel house that we would push up to train after. And it was the most brutal push of your life off a mountain in a wheelchair. But it was so good. And then you get there.
It was worth it, huh? I don't know. Expenditure of the calories.
They did it twice. I don't know if it's actually worth it. It's a brutal push, but it's so good too.
Did that come with a beer or something? Or no?
Yeah, you had to hide it a little bit. It came with the post.
All right, next. If you could compete in any other sport, what would it be?
I always thought sled hockey looked pretty badass. And it's similar to a monoski, how you move. But I tried it twice, and my stick handling skills were nowhere that's what would hold me back. I could kind of keep up. I could move well. I loved hitting people, but I could not handle the puck at all. I didn't even think about it. But sled hockey. Curling would be my easy back. Not to say curling's easy, but I think I could figure that one out.
I'm sure you could. I think you can do anything right now, man. I feel like you commit to something, you get it done. All right, next. Favorite place you've traveled for competitions? I think you said
New Zealand, by far. It's the coolest country in the world. It's we would go in August because the winter's opposite. And it's the coolest country in the world. Every extreme sport, you can go there. You can go hang gliding, bungee jumping. They have like jet boats in a river. The food's amazing. Shout out to Ferg Burger in Queenstown, New Zealand, best burger ever. And it's such a fun place. I would totally move there.
That's awesome. All right, skiing in the Rockies or the Alps? What's your preference?
Rockies has better snow. The Alps is more glaciers. It's icier. You always have to take like a gondola or a train to get to the ski resort, I feel. The Rockies has some of the best snow in the world by far.
Wow, I will never think of that. That's the Alps have this like glamorous.
They're cool. They're awesome, but I think our snow is better. It's fluffier here. It snows a bunch here and it's fluffy.
Yeah, I'm sure. I remember they're like, oh my God, so beautiful. All right, next. All right, now we're going to do would you rather questions. All right, so this is simple. Would you rather, yes, this and this, and you get going. Ready? All right, here we go. Would you rather train on a sunny day or race in extreme conditions?
I always personally liked training more than racing. I had more fun. You get to go up and just take a million laps on the same course and really improve on the day. Racing was a sheet of ice every time because they're literally out there with a water hose making it icy because they want it to stay consistent for everyone. So I had a lot of fun training. I really like training.
Cool.
But probably not the competitive, like win every race answer, but I love training. It is so much fun. You're out there all day.
I feel like you are, I don't know, it's the first athlete I'd interview that said they love training more than competing.
You're skiing.
It's different though. It's different. Yeah. It's different. You're actually the first, the first one. Yeah. It says.
Interview a surfer. I bet they like training too.
That's true.
It's the same thing.
Would you rather lead a downhill charge or navigate a tricky slalom course?
Downhill. Yeah. I'm all about going straight and fast.
How fast? What's the fastest you think you actually went?
According to my polar watch in France, I hit 72 miles an hour. In a downhill.
That's the same.
I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it's saying.
I mean, I think they're pretty accurate these days nowadays, so that's pretty.
It's not the going fast part that's hard. It's the stopping and the finish when you're going that fast. This was right at the bottom, and you had to stop, and that was hard.
That's insane, man. Oh, you guys, you gotta be crazy to do your sport for sure. Like you have to. There's gotta be something, man. There's no way I'm like, I'm gonna go at 70 miles per hour, and I'm just gonna go as fast as I can in a little thing. Like, how wide is the ski?
I don't remember, but it's like that. It's couple 4 inches, 5 inches.
Yeah, that's insane. This is a sidetrack question. Do you miss that adrenaline of competing?
Yeah, a little bit. But like you can get it skiing. Like you can go skiing and go scare yourself on a hill. Joe ski some crazy steep thing in Aspen. There's some steep stuff that you can still get that. But it's
say the spots. The spots like the secret areas. Like
every downhill I did, it took me like the first 2 or 3 gates to calm down. Like my heart was going like crazy. And like you're not really focused. I felt like this probably isn't good, but the first like 2 or 3 gates, I was like spacey and heart going, and then you kind of scare yourself on the 3rd gate and you're like, okay, all right. you like snap back. You're like, all right, need to focus.
Yeah. I feel alive now. Now I'm alive.
Yeah. You got to scare yourself a little bit to focus.
Gotta get out of your comfort zone. Is that what we say?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put it that way. All right. Last segment here. And this is a new segment we introduced in our show. It's called Moment of Zen. And the question I want to ask you is, what's one mantra or piece of advice that keeps you going during tough times?
I would say enjoy the moment. I would always try to I just mentioned that the first few gates, I was always a little nervous. I would always try to run in the start gate, and there's always like an insane view that you can just look out at before you go. And I would always look out at it and be like, dang, this is cool that I'm here. The timer would go and just push out a start gate. So I would just say, enjoy where you are. Enjoy what you're doing. It is so fun to travel the world ski racing. And I got hurt a lot, and it was hard to come back from that, but I would change it for anything. So
cool. Stephen, thank you so much for, taking the time right now and sharing your story with us on what it was to be, where you came from Vermont all the way to making the Paralympics, injuries throughout all of your career, but you still kept pushing. And I'm really excited to reconnect with you, first of all. And I'm happy to where you're at right now, what you're doing, and keep sharing your story with people and sharing your wisdom with those that are coming after you for what you're doing. So I'm really, really happy that you were here with us, sharing the knowledge you've got throughout your career. And yeah, thanks so much for everything. And I'll keep you posted and see what's next for us here. But thank you again. We'll stay in touch, and good luck to your wife in her race. Make sure she makes it safe and sound.